today's lesson is on exponents. We'll go ahead and start with some vocabulary. So a power is a product of repeated factors. And a power is written with a base and an exponent. The base is the common factor, the number that is multiplied by itself, and the exponent is the small little number written in superscript that's the number of times the base is used as a power. So here we have 1/2 to the 5th power, and that's written as 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. So 1/2 multiplied by itself 5 times. So for our first example, we're just going to be writing expressions using exponents. So for our first problem, we have -7 multiplied by itself 3 times. So -7 is our base, and 3 is the exponent. And together, the base and the exponent make up the power. Notice that we put -7 in parentheses because the integer -7 is the base. -7 is being repeated, so we need to be sure that we're multiplying -7 by itself, not just 7. For example B, we have pi times r times r times r. So we have 2 different bases. Pi is one base, which is raised to the 2nd power, and r is the 2nd base, and that's raised to the 3rd power. We have pi multiplied by itself twice, and r multiplied by itself 3 times. And then last, we have 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. So here we have 1/2 in parentheses to the 4th power. Keep in mind, that's not the same thing as this. If I write the 1/2 without parentheses, I'm only squaring the 1, the numerator. I want to be sure that I'm squaring both the numerator and the denominator, so I put the 1/2 in parentheses. All right, next we're going to evaluate expressions. So we have -4 taken to the 4th power. So I'm going to write it out in expanded form first. -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. And then I'm going to simplify. I'll multiply the first 2 numbers together, so that's 4. And then the second 2 is also +4. So my result is +16. Now, example B looks a little bit similar, but they're not the same because the -2 is not in parentheses. So what we have here is a negative sign in front of the power 2 to the 4th. So the opposite of 2 to the 4th power. So I only have one negative sign. I'm not taking that -2 to a power. That negative sign is not being taken to the 4th power, just the 2. So I have -2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. So my answer here is -16. So whether or not you put the parentheses around the base makes a difference in how we are evaluating that power. In example 3, we're going to use order of operations. So we know that we're going to do our exponents before we do multiplication or addition. So we'll start with 3 to the 4th power, which is 81. So we have 3 plus 2 times 81. And then we know we do our multiplication and division before addition and subtraction. So that's 3 plus 162, or 165. All right, our next example, we have 2 powers. We can go ahead and do both of those at the same time. 3 to the 3rd power is 27, minus 8 squared is 64, divided by 2. We do division before subtraction, so that's 27 minus 32, which is -5. All right, one more example. Here we have this sphere, and it says that in the sport of sphering, a person is secured inside a small hollow sphere that's surrounded by a larger sphere. The space between the spheres is inflated with air. What's the volume of the inflated space? So we kind of have this outer circle and the inner circle. The person's inside the inner circle, and then this middle circle is what's filled up with air. So we're going to go ahead and find the volume of the outer sphere and the volume of the inner sphere. So for the outer sphere, our volume is 4/3 times pi r cubed. And the radius of the outer sphere is 1/2 of 3. So that's 3/2 cubed. So now we'll go ahead and simplify that. So that's 4/3 pi. We need to cube both the 3 and the 2, so that's 27/8. So we have 4/3 pi times 27/8. Let's simplify before we multiply those fractions. 4 goes into itself once and into 8 twice. 3 goes into itself once and into 27 9 times. So we could simplify this to 9/2 pi. And let's just leave it like that for now. Let's go ahead and do the inner sphere. The radius of the smaller circle here is 1/2 of 2, which is 1. 1 cubed is just 1, so we could simplify this to 4/3 pi. Now, if we want the volume of the inflated space, we need to do the outer sphere, the volume of the outer sphere minus the volume of the inner sphere. So that's going to be 9/2 pi minus 4/3 pi. And let's change these into fractions with a common denominator of 6. So that's 27/6 pi minus 8/6 pi, which is 19/6 pi. And when we calculate that, that's about 9.9. So we'll say that's about 10 cubic meters. All right, go ahead and try a few on your own. I'll see you soon.